Państwa bardzo serdecznie, szanowni
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome as a person authorized under Article 409, Section 1 of the Commercial Companies Code and Section 32 of the Article of Association to open the annual general meeting of shareholders. I'd like to extend a very warm welcome to all of you and thank you very much for your presence. Let me open the session of the general meeting of TAURON Polska Energia in Katowice. Before we proceed to the second item of the agenda, it is election of the chairperson of the shareholders. Let me explain the rules of voting, which will use an electronic system. So let me ask the representative operating the system to provide a short information on how to carry out a voting process. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Michał Zacharewicz and I will be managing the electronic voting system. And now I'd like all of authorized shareholders having the equipment, grab it into your hands, and on the screen you will have two buttons. Under the button Documents, you will have all the documents published by the corporation on this general meeting. Under the button Your Data, you have information who you register and what is the number of votes you have for this general meeting. And now please each of you click the Your Data button to verify whether the registration is correct, has been correctly completed. No objections, so I understand that everything is fine. So the voting process is going to look like this. So when we start the voting process, when the chairperson starts the voting process, on the screen on my right hand side and on the tablet, so you will have the mode and the voting process and the three decision process. Yes, it is for the resolution. No, it is against the resolution, and there is also an abstain vote. And after selecting of a button, we will display in the summary screen, and so this is a two-stage voting. First you take a decision, then you confirm the decision, and after that your vote is registered by the system. Are there any questions on how the system operates? If no, thank you very much. My understanding is that all is clear in terms of the voting system. If there are no questions, let's move on to the item 2 of the agenda. So today we will proceed to item 2 of the proposed agenda. It is making a decision on selecting of election of the chairperson of the ordinary general meeting of the company. And the general meeting was conveyed by the board of directors of the company in accordance with the Article 402 of the Commercial Companies Code, and the chairperson is elected under the Commercial Code of Companies, and this will be a secret voting by the normal number of votes. And I'd like to ask you now to report candidates for the chairpersons of this meeting. Martin Iwiński, the proxy of KGHM Polska Miedź. And I'd like to invite Madam Kowinska to be a member of the chairperson. Anna Kowalik is reported to be the chairperson. Do you agree to be a chairperson? Are there any other candidates? No, I cannot see any, so I order a secret ballot on the candidacy of Ms. Anna Kowalik for the position of a chairperson of the ordinary general meeting. The draft resolution is now displayed on the screen. This is the resolution number 1 of the general meeting of TAURON Polska Energia S.A. on the 25th of June 2025. So let's proceed to the voting process. Have all the shareholders had a chance to cast their votes? Yep. I close the vote and please provide me the reports on the voting process. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I declare that for the candidacy of Madam Kowalik, the number of 1,042,853,759 votes. So that these are for, no against, and no abstain. So all votes are for. My congratulations, and Madam Chairperson, please moderate the following parts of the general meeting. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. As the chairperson of the session, thank you very much for your trust in electing me. And ladies and gentlemen, now let's move on to proceeding of the agenda. And I was provided the attendance list, and please be patient as I am now going to sign it. It is quite extensive.
Ladies
and gentlemen, the attendance list for this general meeting has been signed, and according to this attendance list, in this general meeting we have present the following number of shareholders. It's a general number of 1,748,048, and we also have votes 1,049,709,386, which is 89%, which is also the number of votes 1,042,853,759 votes. And now a couple of housekeeping remarks based on pursuant on the Articles of Association and the provisions of the Section 10 of the Articles of Association. The following restrictions may be imposed on the exercise of voting rights. The voting rights on shareholders holding more than 10% of the total votes in the company are restricted so that none of them may exercise at the general meeting of shareholders more than 10% of the total votes in the company, with the exception of the State Treasury and the State Treasury subsidiaries, during the period in which the State Treasury, together with the State Treasury subsidiaries, holds a number of shares in the company entitling it to exercise at least 25% of the total votes in the company. Votes belonging to the shareholders between whom there is a relationship of domination or dependence within the meaning of the Articles of Association, it is a grouping of shareholders, are accumulated in the event that the accumulated number of votes exceeds 10% of the votes in the company, and it is subject to reduction. The rules of accumulation and reduction of the votes are set out in the paragraph 10, section 6 and 7 of the company Articles of Association. Taking into account the above mentioned provisions of the Articles of Association, I hereby inform that the KGHM Polska Miedź SA, in accordance with the declaration submitted, holds a number of votes exceeding 10% of the total number of votes. The attendance list therefore contains a limitation on the number of votes of the shareholder KGHM Polska Miedź SA to 10% of the total number of votes in the company. At the same time, I'd like to inform you that another shareholder holding more than 10% of the number of votes is the State Treasury, which, with respect to which the limitations arising from the Articles of Association do not apply due to its ownership of the shares entitling it to exercise more than 25% of the total number of votes in the company. At the same time, I'd like to request the shareholders of the proxies, requesting them to report for the record of occurrence of any relationship of domination or dependence between the shareholders within the meaning of Section 10, Paragraph 5 of the Articles of Association. I declare, based on the submitted documents, that in this general meeting of TAURON Polska Energia SA in Katowice was convened correctly. It is by declaration of convention on the website of the company on the 25th of May 2025 in a manner prescribed for the transmission of current information in accordance with the provisions of the public offering and the conditions for introducing financial instruments into organized trading system and public companies. The company publicly informed about reports 19/2025, 20/2025 of the 29th of May 2025, including the content of information about convening of the general meeting and the list of shareholders entitled to participate, signed by the management board, was displayed for 3 days before the general meeting. With this in mind, I declare that this general meeting was convened correctly and is capable of taking decisions. So we have completed three items of the agenda. And before we move on to the fourth item on accepting of the agenda, I'd like also to request you and make a motion to release me from reading of the draft resolutions, as all the documents, draft resolutions have been published on the website and will be displayed on the screen. Do any of you object to this approach? If no, thank you very much, and this is going to facilitate, speed up our discussions.
Now, let us move on to item 4 on the agenda, namely voting on the adoption of the agenda, which was published on the company's website on 29th of May 2025. And then on 3rd of June 2025, we informed with a current report 21/25 on a change on the agenda for the general meeting, following a demand of the State Treasury to extend the agenda and include the following items on the agenda: adoption of resolution on remuneration for the management board members, adoption of a resolution on changing the policy for remuneration for TAURON Polska S.A., and adoption of resolution on the principles of determining the remuneration of supervisory board members. The new agenda has been published on the company's website on 3rd of June 2025. Now, are there any questions or comments regarding the proposed agenda? Thank you very much. If we adopt the current agenda, you will be able to submit the motion that you just described, which was not audible because of lack of microphone. But we have item 12, adoption on resolution on distribution of net profit for the financial year 2024. If we adopt the current agenda, in item 12, you can submit your draft resolutions. I have a request, another request. Can we increase the volume because it's difficult to hear? No, it's okay. It's okay now. Now, can you hear me? Right. Yes, I could hear you, so it's fine. Are there any other questions or comments to the proposed resolution on adoption of the agenda for today's meeting? If not, I'm ordering voting on resolution number 2 on the adoption of the agenda for the ordinary general meeting of the company. Let's wait a little bit more. Please cast your votes. Okay. All the shareholders cast their votes. I don't see any objections, so please close the voting and provide the results. All right, we've got the results. We 1,042,853,759 valid votes have been cast out of 1,042,853,759 shares, constituting 59.5% of the share capital. Votes for 1,042,853,759, no votes against, no abstentions. So we have a unanimous adoption of the agenda. Now let us move on to item 5 on the agenda. Before we select the returning committee, which is to be the ballot counting committee, which is to be done in item 6. according to the regulations of the general meeting. Let's move on to adoption on the resolution on revoking the secrecy of voting on the election of committees appointed by the ordinary general meeting. And the draft of this resolution is displayed on the screen and was published on the company's website. A very short resolution. Any questions? If not, please vote now. Have all the shareholders cast their votes? Still somebody's voting. Okay, let's wait. I think everybody has cast their votes. If so, I'm closing the voting and we have the results. 1,042,853,759 valid votes have been cast, attached to 1,042,853,759 shares, constituting 59.5% of the share capital. Votes for 1,042,853,759. No votes against, no abstentions. So, again, the resolution has been adopted unanimously. Thank you very much. And let us move on to the election of the ballot counting committee, which is provided for in item 6 of the agenda. Please provide candidates for the ballot counting committee. And again, according to the regulations of paragraph 15, section 2 of the regulations of the general meeting, the ballot counting committee has to be composed of 3 members selected by the general meeting of shareholders. Provide Marcin Ewiński, proxy of KGHM, Polska Miedź S.A., Andrzej Prucnal, Roman Kaczmarek, and Maciej Podgórski are our candidates. Are there any other candidates? If not, please, according to the regulations, we can vote on all the 3 candidates, all the panel of the committee. So we have the draft resolution on the screen with the names of the members, of the candidates for the members of the ballot counting committee. Do you agree to be candidates for the ballot counting committee? We do. Okay, thank you very much. So let us vote now. Have all the shareholders cast their votes? As I understand, everybody has been able to do that, so please provide the results. We've got the results. 1,042,853,759 valid votes have been cast, representing 1,042,853,759 shares, constituting 59.5% of the share capital. Votes for 1,042,853,759. Votes no votes against, abstentions none. So unanimously elected ballot counting committee. Now let us move on to the next item on the agenda, which is for information. It's item 8. Sorry, it's item 7. Presentation of financial results of the company and of TAURON group of companies. Please, I would like to ask the management board to provide the information. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Let me present the financial results for the group first. Okay. I'll try and speak up. It's going to be easier to understand and hear me. Okay, now it's fine. Okay, let's start with the group's results. Key parameter for the entire group, EBITDA. The EBITDA was record high, 6.5 billion zlotys, almost 700 million more than the analytical consensus. There was an increase year to year by almost 20%. Here, actually, detailed results regarding the EBITDA are presented in a consecutive slides. As for revenues, they dropped like a little bit more than 35 billion zlotys, but the decrease in the revenues was the result on a decrease in prices on the market. Let's remember that in 2022, 2023, there was an increase in energy prices because of the war. In 24, we saw the prices settle down, and the situation settled down on the market, and the price dropped a little bit, and then there was a smaller volume on retail and wholesale markets, both of them. As for net profit, it's a little bit lower year to year, and it's almost 600 million zlotys. But it was mainly affected by write-offs in the conventional part. There was a write-off worth of assets of TAURON Wytwarzanie company, and there was a loss of tax-related assets, and deferred tax increase. So the year-to-year profit is a little bit lower. As for capex, it was more than 5 billion zlotys. I will also give you more details on consecutive slides. As for debt ratio, it hasn't been as safe as it is for a long time. It's 1.7. It's much less than the covenants, where the net debt to EBITDA is 3.5. It was affected by the increase in EBITDA, but also reduction of indebtedness. As for operating results, in distribution, we had a stable level of distributed energy, 1% growth, consistent with an increase in the consumption of energy. As for renewables production, a slight year-to-year increase, 7 terawatt-hours of generated energy. This increase has been achieved by commissioning new capacities, because wind and solar conditions were worse year to year. As for conventional assets generation, it was worse year to year by 11%. Using the units, like 200 units, is lower year to year. That's why we have worse volume, smaller volume. Heat production, it was similar year to year, slightly higher temperature and slightly less production in the heating season. And the last part of operating results, retail sales company retail results, they were worse year to year. This was affected by the segment of a large segment, a large distribution customer, and worse offtake by metallurgy and mining industries. We also had the meltdown of small and medium-sized enterprises prices. They moved after the prices had been fixed, and then this returned to the previous condition.
If we look at comparable EBITDA year-on-year is higher, and even more this EBITDA, this comparable EBITDA with cleaning of one-off events is higher by 200 million zlotys. As for the key factors, one-off factors affecting EBITDA in 2024, we had the most important event, that was the change of the tariffs on the 1st of July 2024. It made our EBITDA decrease by about 550 million zlotys as a comparison. And let me add that this tariff was set for 1.5 years. It means that the part of this EBITDA is going to be caught up in 2025, and also to more one-off events. And this is positive tax interpretation. It also affected the one-off event in 2023, and with this we managed to recover VAT from so-called 125 zlotys. Which was assigned to customers also in 2023 before the resolution of the Ministry of Climate. And with this positive tax interpretation, part of this 125 zloty was recovered as a VAT recovery. And the third one-off event, in fact, it is the consolidation of Tamek Czech. It is related with the bankruptcy, in fact, and closing down of that corporation, and this was also mentioned in our reports. As for EBITDA in individual segments, it is unchanged. The key segment of the group is distribution, almost 4 billion of EBITDA last year. Other segments, those which are on the positions rank 2 and 3 in our EBITDA, that is generation and conventional renewables. From other years, we know that they can swap, but last year one brought more than 700 billion of EBITDA, the other below 7 billion of EBITDA, and also in the sales segment almost 600 million of EBITDA, and this segment was affected by this one-off event I mentioned before, like 550 million decreased EBITDA because of lower tariff in 2024, and also the heat generation 300 million EBITDA of year-on-year. And if you look of EBIT ratios, so they are all positive except for generation. That's we have, which I mentioned when I was talking about the profit. We had a decrease in conventional assets. Additionally, there was an increase because of the tax regulations, which effectively caused a negative EBITDA in general in conventional generation. Now let's move on to individual segments and how EBITDA changed year-on-year in individual segments. As you can see, generally the increase in EBITDA was more than billion zlotys, and in all segments added last year to EBITDA compared to 2023, except for generation. But going one by one, the most important segment, this is distribution. The increase in EBITDA by 1 billion zlotys. First of all, it is a significant increase of regulated assets. This is also a derivative of investments in previous years, also in 2024, and additional increase of the WACC rate multiplied by regulated assets gives us also an effect, EBITDA positively, almost 700 million zlotys. And the second parameter which positively affected last year the results of the segment, this is the regulatory balance. It is still negative, but year-on-year this is positive. And thirdly, third positive effect, this is 1% increase. I have mentioned at the very beginning, it also made increase in EBITDA year-on-year. And in the second segment, it is renewable energy sources. That's where we have an increase in year-on-year, increase by more than 250 million zlotys. First of all, it was affected by the increase in incomes on change of electricity prices. It may seem to be surprising as we had a decrease in energy prices in the market, but the income is higher. But please remember that in 2023 we had a freezing of energy prices, making the incomes in renewables much lower, resulting from the wholesale prices. And another positive effect was the increase in volume. We also commissioned and new power during the year, so year-on-year volume was also higher, and the negative influence, that was the green certificates. We had a decrease in energy prices or green certificates prices in the market, but also we phased out some rights, and after 15 years our sources lose their right to get green certificates, and more sources lost their ability to get those certificates. And in generation it is a strong negative change year-on-year, as EBITDA still is positive, but the change is negative because of the margin decrease. It is significantly due to decrease in energy prices in the market, which is not compensated by equal prices of fuels and CO2, so the margins were much lower. And another factor which negatively affected, it was the basis result. In 2023 we had a compensation due to finishing off the contract with Rafaco, and that was one of events, and it positively affected but not that much. It was affected tariffs of heat and decrease in fuel prices. So in heat sector, the result was positive year-on-year. As for the heat, we can say there's a similar factors as in generations. So the tariffs positively affected the results, and it was also negatively affected by energy prices. And additional positive influence, one of events I mentioned at the very beginning, that was the concentration of Tamek Czech. As for sales, we can say that we only have one of events which determined the result in this segment, or changes in this segment. The first one of event, that was 125 zlotys by the resolution, was assigned to all the customers, meeting some requirements defined in the resolution. On the other hand, that event was in 2023, so we can say that the basis result was positive, as it was not repeated in 2024, but we also had a negative. This is 550 million of decreased tariff starting on the 1st of July 2024, and also one of positive results, that was the positive tax interpretation on VAT out of this 125 zlotys. And now let's move on to debt, and as you can see, we have a positive trend. We have a significant decrease year-on-year on economic debt, gross economic debt, and this is quite new thing, as in the previous years we were not presenting this debt type, and now, as we were requested by stock analysts, we extended this debt analysis and included this economic debt. This economic debt, it is also includes CO2 emission rights. So this year we show, starting this year, we are going to show this extensive financial bridge, but both net and gross debt, we have significant decrease in debt year-on-year. And first of all, it was due to significant increase on the level of EBITDA, and also the operational flow, and also better net operational capital year-on-year. What should also be noted here, it is that group is also starting not to use subordinated bonds, which also affects the ratio. So with a significant increase in the gross debt, that was originally 1.7, and step by step the group, and in the following years this debt is going to be decreased. And as for available finance sources, as you can see, the group had more than 6 billion zlotys, which fully covers the needs for finance for at least 12 months. The group for many years has been running a very cautious policy in this regard, and our goal is always to get at least 12 months ahead of finance for the investment needs and also for operational needs in the group. As for also the debt maturity, it is distributed not very much equal, but it is safe over the next years, and maturity is not going to be more than 3 billion in any of the years, so we can get this money easily from the markets. And as for the expenditures, capex, we have 17% of increase year on year, and so we have more than 5 billion zlotys. Main expenditures have been completed in distribution and in renewables. In fact, the strategy was published by the end of the year on the 17th of December. And so 90% of the expenditures are going to be spent on expenditures and on distribution. And in 2024, practically we achieved this value as 90% of the total investments were directed to those two segments. Other segments, heat generation, heat and sales, had a significant decrease in capex year on year. And if you look at the key aspects of the expenditures, first of all, we have distribution more than 3 billion zlotys of expenditures. First of all, we are talking about connections of new customers, modernizing and recovery of the grid. And thirdly, which also is quite interesting in terms of interesting for investors, it is smart meters, and in last year we had a significant increase in expenditures on that, and additionally in renewables we also carried out 6 windmill farms, 3 PV farms, and also some modernizing works on water power plants. So that were 92% of expenditures for these two segments. Others, generation, this is mainly modernizing for heat. We have not managed to speed up with our investment project. That's going to be 5 billion zlotys by 2035. And so far, it is just the beginning of the expenditures, and in other segments. So this is mainly IT and lighting expenditures. And now very briefly about TAURON Polska Energia. Obviously we are publishing one of results about TAURON Polska Energia. It is an element of the big structure, holding structure, and the elements of the value chain within trade. So in fact the results significantly result or are generated from the role of the corporation as a trade element within the group, responsible for supervision and sales, and being a part of the wholesale process and the holding function, which first of all we get dividends from other corporations, and also we provide finance to the entire group. As for the income, it is a derivative, as a decrease in income. It is similar as in the entire group. So this is a derivative of decrease in energy prices in the market. EBITDA, significant increase year on year. And another time we have some regulations. Please remember that in 2023 we had this fund of price difference. We had a limited margin level, and for these reasons we needed to pay money for this fund in 2024. This excess was not paid, so this is why we had the significant increase year on year, and it also plays an important role in the context of the wholesale trade within the group and purchasing of the power in the market and transferring or selling it to our sales company. It is both for energy and gas. As for EBIT, and also the net profit. These two are significantly determined by the dividends. And last year, we achieved a dividend from distribution, and that was almost 900 million, and it affected significantly the result. And negatively, the result was affected by write-off of loans to conventional. This is also a derivative partially to write-offs in this segment, and the worst perspective for the coal segment.
And actually, this is it. As for the group's results, and briefly about the unit results. Any questions? Are there any questions? It's quite important because we'll be approving the consolidated and entity one-off statements. Then, if you have questions now, I see there are no questions. So let's move on to item 8 of the agenda. Resolution on the approval of the report of the Supervisory Board of TAURON Polska Energia S.A. for the financial year 2024, including the assessment and information specified in Article 382, paragraph 31 of the Commercial Companies Code, and in the Companies Articles of Association, and the best practices of WSE listed companies 2021. This report has been presented to the general meeting and was published on the company's website. Are there any questions to this report? If not, please, let's vote on the resolution. You can see the draft resolution displayed on the screen, so please vote now. Have all the shareholders been able to cast their votes? If so, please let me read out the results. 1,042,315,374 votes were cast for the resolution, no votes against, and abstentions 538,385 votes. So the resolution has been adopted with the same share capital being represented, which has not changed, namely it's 59.5% of the share capital. So the resolution has been adopted. Let us move on to item 9 of the agenda. The statement will be now, it's an item on consideration of the financial statements of TAURON Polska Energia S.A. compliant with the international financial reporting standards approved by the European Union for the year ended 31st of December 2024, and adoption of the resolution on its approval. We had the presentation, so do you have any questions regarding this item? If not, please let us vote now. Have all the shareholders cast their votes? If so, I'm closing the voting. And let me read out the results. 1,042,853,759 valid votes have been cast out of 1,042,853,759 shares, constituting 59.5% of the share capital. 1,041,783,136 votes were cast for the resolution. 532,238 votes were against, and 538,385 votes were abstentions. So the resolution has been adopted. Thank you. And let us move on to the next item on the agenda. We have the ballot counting committee's report on paper, but yes, we move on to item 10 on consideration of the and adoption of the resolution on the approval of the consolidated financial statements of TAURON Polska Energia, a group of companies compliant with the international financial reporting standards approved by the European Union for the year ended 31st of December 2024. Are there any questions regarding the consolidated financial statement? If there are no questions, let's vote on it now. Have all the shareholders cast their votes? If so, I'm closing the voting, and let me read out the results. And I'll ask the committee to provide the report. 1,042,853,759 valid votes have been cast, attached to 1,042,853,759 shares, constituting 59.5% of the share capital. 1,042,178,136 votes were cast for. 137,238 votes were cast against, and abstentions 538,385. So the resolution has been adopted. Thank you. Now let us move on to item 11 on the agenda, namely consideration of the report of the Management Board on the operations of TAURON Polska Energia S.A. and TAURON Group of Companies for the financial year 2024, which includes sustainability reporting and adoption of the resolution on its approval. Obviously, the report was published and presented to the general meeting. Are there any questions regarding the report or to the draft resolution that is displayed on the screen? If not, please vote now. Have all the shareholders cast their votes? I know that some proxies I have to cast a lot of votes. If everybody has cast the votes, we have the results. 1,042,853,759 valid votes have been cast, attached to 1,042,853,759 shares, constituting again 59.5% of the share capital. It has not changed. Votes for 1,042,312,733. No votes against, and abstentions for 541,026 votes. Okay, so thank you. We've been provided the voting report by the committee. Now, let us move on to item 12 on the agenda. Let's consider the motion of the management board on the distribution of net profit for the financial year 2024. The company's request addressed to the general meeting was published in a report 14/2025 on 14th of April 2025. And it was published on the company's website of TAURON Polska Energia S.A. and it includes a recommendation on the distribution of net profit of the company for the financial year 2024 in the amount of 578,26.06 zlotys to allocated as the supplemental capital of the company. Can you introduce yourself now? Andrzej Tunia. My name is Andrzej Tunia. I'm a minor shareholder. According to your suggestion, I would like to request that dividend be paid in this year or in the consecutive year 2026. Yes, but this draft resolution should include the amount per share, how high dividend is for per dividend. But this is your draft resolution. Yes, well, that's all. I don't have enough information to include it all in the draft resolution to analyze it all. Okay, so there's a request by a shareholder. As you can see, the resolution is displayed on. So please, can you read the resolution, the draft resolution, because we will have to vote on this resolution proposed by one of the shareholders. So depending on the results of the voting, we will move on to the draft resolution presented by the management board. Please read out again exactly your resolution. I request for the payment of dividend this year or in the next year, 2026. Are there any questions or comments? Because we cannot display this draft resolution on the screen. Obviously, it will be included in the minutes of the meeting by the notary public, because we will have to vote on we will be voting on the draft resolution. Vito, we request a break, 5 minutes break for consultation, please, from PKO. Now we have, what time is it now? Anyone else? Yes. Yes, please, go ahead. I don't know if you can hear me. Okay. My request is, as a proxy of 3 entities, this break of 5 minutes might not be enough. I would like to hear what the way we'll be proceeding. So we will first vote on the request that just proposed by a shareholder, and depending on the result, we will move on or not. We will vote on a resolution proposed by one of the shareholders, which is included in the minutes now, and depending on the result of the voting, we can potentially move on to voting on the resolution proposed by the management board of the company, because the other shareholders have no other requests, right, or motions. formal motions, right? So is it clear? I have a... Could you comment on, please, members of the management board, could you tell us a little bit about the dividend issue, briefly?
This year, as you have seen, so let me explain what was the reason behind it. As it is because of the current situation of the corporation and capitals available. As for the plans for the next years and the strategy, we clearly communicated when we want to pay out dividends, and this is clearly demonstrated. And as for the declaration for the next year, let's see what the situation is going to look like. Our capitals have been paid up. This is important information, and if the economic situation allows, this will be strongly considered. So from your perspective, as we have communicated, the ambition of each manager or the board is to pay out dividends continuously, stably, and this is also the ambition of this team we have in the board. So I believe that I can say that from the perspective of the supervisory board or the people I have been in contact with, they have a similar approach. So the most important is to ensure stability of and capitals. This has been done. The economic situation, as you can see, is monitored or controlled, and the results after first quarter are as they are. I don't want to comment on all of them, and some more results are going to be presented in September as it is scheduled. So that's it. We are determined, you and other shareholders, pay the dividend stably as we communicated in the strategy, and we also want to ensure the company has been developing, and the payout of the dividend should be continuous and stable. This should not be one-off event. Are there any other questions? If there are no other questions, it is 12 o'clock now, and if there are no other questions, it is 12:02 now. And the proxies, how much time do you need? 10 minutes, 12 past 12, is it enough? Okay, so let me declare the technical break until 12 minutes past 12.
Ja rozumiem, że wszyscy akcjonariusze
And that all the shareholders are back from the break. The proxies have consulted their principals. The management board and the supervisory board are represented in the room. So let's resume after this technical consultation break. Let's resume the general meeting. We're discussing item 12 on the proposed a draft resolution that has been included in the minutes. As I understand, you sustain this resolution. Okay, so in the wording that was shared before the break on item 12 on distribution of profit, I would like you to vote on this draft resolution, which, according to what the shareholder has said, refers to the payment of dividend for 2024 in the years 2025 and 2026. Are there any other comments or questions? If not, please vote now. I understand that you're still voting. Now, have all the shareholders been able to cast their votes? If yes, I'm closing the voting, and please provide the results. Now, 1,037,436,718 valid votes have been cast, attached to 1,037,436,719 shares, constituting 59.19% of the share capital. 2,641 votes were cast for. Votes against 705,676,021 votes, and abstentions 331,758,056 votes. And therefore the resolution has not been adopted. Therefore, let us move on to the draft resolution presented by the Management Board. Please display the resolution on the screen. You can see the resolution. If there are no further questions, please vote now. Have all the shareholders cast their votes? If so, I'm closing the voting, and please provide the results. 1,042,853,759 valid votes have been cast, representing 1,042,853,759 shares, constituting 59.5% of the share capital. Votes for 1,042,851,111 and 18. Votes against 2,641 votes, and no abstentions. So the resolution has been adopted. That was item 12 on distribution of net profit for the financial year 2024. Let us move on to item 13 on the agenda, where we have the adoption of the resolution to give opinion on the report on the remuneration of members of the Management Board and the Supervisory Board of TAURON Polska Energia S.A. in 2024. The report was obviously published and presented to the general meeting. Are there any questions to it? If not, please vote now. Have all the shareholders cast their votes? If so, please. We're closing the voting, and please provide the results. I'm reading out the results. 1,042,853,759 valid votes have been cast. representing the same number of shares, constituting 59.5% of the share capital. 822,332,735 votes were for, 220,521,024 votes were cast against, and there were no abstentions, and therefore the resolution has been adopted. Thank you. Now we've fulfilled 13 items on the agenda. Let us move on consecutive items that have to be voted on secretly because they constitute the acknowledgement of fulfillment of duties for each member of the company's management board and supervisory board. There'll be a large number of those resolutions, so I will just read out the names of consecutive persons, and we will have the resolutions on acknowledgement of the fulfillment of duties or not acknowledging the fulfillment of duties displayed. In the materials for today's meetings, we've published the information of the supervisory board on the motions for the general meeting for granting or not granting acknowledgement of fulfillment of duties for members of the management board who performed functions in the financial year 2024. Draft resolutions on granting or not granting acknowledgement of fulfillment of duties for members of the management board according to the above mentioned petitions of the supervisory board were published on 29th of May 2025 in a current report and were published on the company's website. Draft resolutions will be displayed on the screen. Now, are there any questions regarding draft resolutions because they were published? If there are none, let's move on to item 14, adoption of resolution on the acknowledgement of the fulfillment of duties for members on the company's management board who performed their functions in the financial year 2024. Please display the resolution on acknowledgement of fulfillment of duties to CEO Grzegorz Loto for 2024. You can see the draft resolution. We'll be voting secretly in this block of votings. If there are no questions, you will also see dates of performing the functions by the persons displayed on the screen. So let's start the secret ballot. I understand you're still voting. So, yeah, I know that everybody has cast their votes. Is that right? If so, I'm closing the secret ballot, and please provide the results. 1,042,853,759 valid votes have been cast, representing the same number of shares, constituting still 59.5% of the share capital. 1,035,633,113 votes were for. 6,461,325 votes were against, and abstentions 759,321. So the resolution has been adopted. I would like to thank you very much for that. Now, the next resolution concerns Piotr Gołębiowski. You can see the resolution displayed on the screen. There's no there are no questions, so please vote now. Have all the shareholders cast their votes? If so, I'm closing the voting, and let me read out the results. The share capital is still represented in the same number, 1,042,853,759 valid votes, the same number of shares. Votes for, 1,035,633,113. Votes against, 6,461,325. And abstentions, 759,321. So the resolution has been adopted. Now, please display the resolution concerning acknowledgement of fulfillment of duties to Vice President of the Board, Michał Orłowski, for 2024. You can see the draft resolution on the screen. Are there any questions? Obviously, we're still voting secretly, so please start the secret ballot now. Have all the shareholders cast their votes? If so, I'm closing the voting. Please provide the results. Again, we have 59.5% of the share capital represented, namely 1,042,853,759 valid votes have been cast representing the same number of shares. Votes for, 1,035,633,113. Votes against, 6,461,325. And abstentions, 759,321 votes. So the resolution has been adopted. Thank you very much. Now, please display the draft resolution concerning acknowledgement of fulfillment of duties to Vice President of the Board to Krzysztof Surma for 2024. You can see the resolution displayed on the screen. Are there any questions? If not, please vote now.
Czy wszyscy akcjonariusze
Have all the shareholders had an opportunity to cast your votes? If so, if it is the case, I'm closing the ballot, and let me read out the results of the voting process. The same, still the volume of shares. This is 59.50% of the share capital, and we had 1,042,853,759 votes, and for 1,035,666,113 against 6,461,325 and abstained 759,321 votes. So the resolution has been adopted. And now please display the draft resolution on the acknowledgement of the fulfillment of the duties to Karolina Mucha-Kuś on being a member of the company's management board in 2024 for temporary acting as president of the management board. We also have this delegation date. Are there any questions, remarks, comments? If no, please cast your votes now. Have all the shareholders the opportunity to cast your votes? If so, I'm closing the voting process, and let me read out the results. The capital volume is still the same. We have 1,042,853,759 valid votes. Out of the same number of shares, for 1,035,633,113 votes, against 6,461,325, and abstained 759,321 votes. So the resolution has been adopted. Thank you. And now, please display the draft resolution on non-acknowledgement to Paweł Szczeszek for the year 2024. So let me emphasize here that this is the resolution on non-granting the acknowledgements. Are there any questions or remarks, comments? If no, please cast your votes now. Have all the shareholders had the opportunity to cast your votes? I can see that that is the case. Thank you. And let me read out the results of the voting. The share capital is still the same, 59.50. For we have 937,003,113 votes, against 6,461,325, and abstained 99,389,321 votes. So the resolution has been adopted. Thank you. And now let's move on to the next draft agenda. Please display it. It is on acknowledgement. Let me emphasize, this is on acknowledgement of the fulfillment of duties to Patrick Dembski in 2024 for acting as a Deputy President on Strategy and Development. Are there any questions? Now, this is a positive draft resolution on acknowledgement. Let me ask you now to cast your votes now. Have all the shareholders had an opportunity to cast your votes? If so, the voting is closed. And now let me read out the results. We have 1,042,853,759 valid votes. This is still the same number of shares, and 59.50 of the volume of the capital for 1,035,633,113 votes against 6,461,325 votes, and abstained 759,321 votes. So the resolution has been adopted. Now, please display the resolution on acknowledgement to Bogusław Rybacki for 2024 on acting as a Deputy President of the Management Board on managing of the equity. If there are no questions, let's cast your votes. Please remember that this is secret voting. Have all the shareholders had an opportunity to cast your votes? If so, I'm closing the ballot, and let me read out the results. The capital is still the same, 59.50%, and it is 1,042,853,759 valid votes out of the same number of shares for 1,035,633,113 votes against 6,461,325 and abstained 759,321. It means that the resolution has been adopted. And now let's display the draft resolution on acknowledgement to Tomasz Szczegielniak for the year 2024. So that's the period displayed in the draft resolution. Are there any questions? If no, please cast your votes now. Have all the shareholders had the opportunity to cast your votes? no objections, so it means that I will read out the results. We still have 59.50% of the share capital. It is 1,042,853,759 valid votes out of the same number of shares. For 1,035,633,113 against 6,461,325 and abstained 759,321 votes. It means that the resolution has been adopted. And now let's display the draft resolution on non-acknowledgement to Artur Warzocha in 2024. We have the periods displayed in 2024. Are there any questions? If no, cast your votes now, please. Have all the shareholders had an opportunity to cast your votes? If so, thank you very much, and let me read out the results of the voting. We have 1,042,853,759 valid votes. Out of 1,042,853,759 shares, which is 59.50% of the share capital. For 937,003,113 votes against 6,461,325 votes and abstained 99,389,321 votes. So the resolution has been adopted. And so this item has been concluded as all the resolutions has been voted on. And now let's move on to the item 15 on adoption of the resolutions on the acknowledgement of the fulfillment of duties for members of the company's management board who performed their functions in the financial year 2023. So this is on acknowledgement of the fulfillment of the duties for a member of the company's management board in 2023, and that was also voted on during the ordinary meeting of the shareholders on the 22nd of December of 2024, which was a continuation after the break on the 3rd of June 2024, but due to non-achieving of a majority of votes for, the resolutions have not been adopted, so the supervisory board believe that it is necessary to reassess the completion of the duties by the members of the board in 2023, and the draft resolutions on acknowledgement or non-acknowledgement according to the motions of the supervisory board have been published in the current report on the 29th of May 2025 and have been submitted to the internet website of the company. Taking into consideration this fact and the motion, my suggestion is to vote on the drafts of the resolutions. Please display the first draft resolution in this item of the agenda. It is on the acknowledgement of the fulfillment of the duties to Deputy President of the Management Board, Krzysztof Surma, in 2023. So this is the draft resolution. We have the period displayed. Are there any remarks or questions? If no, please cast your votes. Please remember that this is again a secret voting. Have all the shareholders had an opportunity to cast your votes? If so, let me read out the results of the voting. 1,042,853,759 valid votes have been cast out of the same number of shares. It is 59.50% of the share capital for 1,035,633,113 votes, against 6,461,325 votes, and abstained 759,321 votes. It means that the resolution has been adopted. Thank you very much for both votings. And the next, this is about non-granting of the acknowledgement. Please apologize for switching off the microphones. The next draft resolution on non-granting of the acknowledgement to Paweł Szczeszek for the year 2023 on performing of his duties as the President of the Management Board. This is the draft resolution. Are there any questions? If no, please cast your votes now. Have all the shareholders had an opportunity to cast your votes? If so, let me read out the results of the voting. 1,042,853,759 valid votes have been casted out of the same number of shares, which is 59.50% of the share capital, for 937,003,113 votes, against 6,461,325 votes, abstained 99,389,321 votes. The resolution has been adopted. Now let's display the draft resolution on acknowledgement to Patryk Dębski. So this is still the year 2023. We are voting on the year 2023. Again, are there any questions? If no, please cast your votes now. I think you are still voting. Have all the shareholders had an opportunity to cast your votes? If so, let me read out the results of the voting. The share capital is still the same, 59.50%, and we have 1,042,853,759 valid votes out of the same number of shares, for 1,035,633,113 votes, against 6,461,325 votes, and abstained 759,321 votes. So the resolution has been adopted. And now let's display the draft resolution on acknowledgement to Bogusław Rybacki. We have the draft resolution on the screen. Are there any questions? If no, please cast your votes now. Have all the shareholders had an opportunity to cast your votes? If so, let me read out the results of the voting. The share capital is still the same, 59.50%. It is 1,442,853,759 valid votes out of the same number of shares. For 1,035,633,113 votes against 6,461,325 and abstained 759,321. The resolution has been adopted. Thank you. Let's move on to the draft resolution on acknowledgement to Tomasz Szczegielniak in financial year 2023. So the draft resolution is displayed. Are there any questions? If no, please cast your votes now. Have all the shareholders had an opportunity to cast your votes? If so, let me read out the results of voting. The share capital volume is the same, 59.50%. It is 1,042,853,759 valid votes out of the same number of shares. For 1,035,633,113 against 6,461,325 and abstained 759,321. So the resolution has been adopted, and let's move on to the next draft agenda on non-granting the acknowledgement to Artur Warzocha for 2023 on performing of the deputy president of the management board. Are there any questions? No. So cast your votes now. Have all the shareholders had an opportunity to cast your votes? Yes, all of you? Thank you. Let me read out the results of the voting. We have 1,042,853,759 valid votes out of the same number of shares, 59.50% of the share capital. For 937,003,113 votes against 6,461,325 votes, abstained 99,389,321 votes. The resolution has been adopted. In this item of the agenda, all the draft resolutions has been voted on. Thank you very much. And now let's move on to the item 16. It is the adoption on the resolutions on the acknowledgement of the fulfillment of the duties for members of the company's supervisory board who performed their duties in the financial year 2024. And now I will be reading the names, and the draft resolutions will be displayed. The same as it was displayed also on the website. And now let's vote on the acknowledgements of for Sławomir Smyczek. So again, this is a secret voting. If there are no questions, please cast your votes now. Have all the shareholders had an opportunity to cast your votes? If so, let me read out the results of the voting. The share capital is still the same, 59.50%, so it is 1,042,853,759 valid votes out of the same number of shares. For 1,004,638,367 votes. Against 37,456,071 votes, and abstained 759,321. It means that the resolution. Thank you very much for voting. Please apologize as the microphone is switching off on its own independently. Please apologize, accept my apologies. Thank you very much for this instruction. So the draft resolution is displayed. Are there any questions? If no, please cast your votes. Have all the shareholders had an opportunity to switch to cast your votes? No remarks, no comments. So now let's read out the results of the voting. The share capital volume is the same, 59.50%. It is 1,042,853,759 valid votes out of the same number of shares. For 1,004,638,367 votes. Against 37,456,071 votes, and abstain 759,321 votes. It means that the resolution has been adopted. And now let's move. Thank you very much, the shareholders, for your trust. Congratulations. Please quit saying thank you, as this is a little bit disrupting for the debate. And now the draft resolution on acknowledgement to the Secretary of the Supervisory Board, Piotr Kołodziej, in 2024. The draft resolution is displayed. If there are no questions, please cast your votes now. Have all the shareholders had an opportunity to cast your votes? Are there any technical difficulties? Yes, I have already asked, have all the shareholders had an opportunity to cast your votes? I have already asked that question. I cannot see any remarks. Okay, so I'm closing the ballot, and now let's display the results. So it is. We have completed the voting on acknowledging of Piotr Kołodziej. So we have now 516,005,375 valid votes out of the same 516,005,375 shares, which is 29.2 digits, 44 of the share capital. So the number of votes is different, and now we have 477,789,983 votes for, against 37,456,071 votes against, and abstained 759,321. My understanding is that quorum is not required on this acknowledgement, so it means that the resolution has been adopted. Thank you. Now, are there any? Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a significant difference. Yes. The participants are not using the microphone, so I am not able to interpret this. My understanding is that all the shareholders and the proxies who wanted to cast their votes did it. It is not a technical issue. My understanding is that there are no remarks on this voting. Thank you. So the resolution has been adopted on acknowledgement to Mr. Secretary of Board Piotr Kołodziej, Supervisory Board, and now let's vote on acknowledgement to Mariusz Bombol for 2024. So the draft resolution is displayed. Are there any questions? If no, I'm opening the ballot. Have all the shareholders had an opportunity to cast your votes? No remarks, that's my understanding, so I'm closing the ballot, and now let's have the results. We have 1,042,853,759 valid votes out of the same number of shares. This is 59.50% of the share capital. For 1,004,638,367 votes against 37,456,071 votes, and abstained 759,321 votes. The resolution has been adopted. Thank you. And now let's display the draft resolution on acknowledgement to the member of the Supervisory Board, Michał Hulboj. The draft resolution is displayed. Are there any questions? If no, please cast your votes now. Have all the shareholders had an opportunity to cast your votes? If so, thank you. And let me read out the results of the ballots. For 1,004,600. We had 1,042,853,759 votes. For 1,004,638,367 votes. Against 37,456,071 votes, and abstained 759,321 votes. It means that the resolution has been adopted. Thank you. And now please display the draft resolution on acknowledgement to Beata Kisielewska. The draft resolution is displayed. Are there any questions? If no, please cast your votes now. Have all the shareholders had an opportunity to cast your votes? No remarks? Let me read out the results of the ballot. The share capital is still the same. It is 59.50% of the share capital. It is 1,042,853,759 valid votes out of the same number of shares. For 1,004,638,367 votes, against 37,456,071, and abstained 759,321 votes. Thank you. The resolution has been adopted. And now let's move on to the draft resolution on acknowledgement to Leszek Koziorowski. This is the draft resolution. If there are no questions, please cast your votes. Have all the shareholders had the chance to cast your votes? So let me read out the results. And the share capital is still the same, 59.50%. It is 1,042,853,759 valid votes. For 1,004,638,367 votes. Against 37,456,071 votes, and abstained 759,321 votes. So the resolution has been adopted. And now please display the draft resolution on acknowledgement to Krzysztof Tkaczuk. This is the draft resolution. Are there any questions? If no, please cast your votes. You are still voting, aren't you? Have all the shareholders had an opportunity to cast your votes? No remarks, no objections. So now let me read out the results of the voting. The share capital volume is the same, 59.50%. It is 1,042,853,759 valid votes out of the same number of shares. For 1,004,638,367 votes, against 37,456,071 votes, and abstained 759,321 votes. Thank you. The resolution has been adopted. And now let's display the draft resolution on acknowledgement to Katarzyna Masłowska. This is the draft resolutions. Are there any questions? If no, cast your votes. Have all the shareholders had an opportunity to cast your votes? My understanding is that this is the case, so let me read out the results of the ballot. The share capital is still the same, 59.50%. It is 1,042,853,759 valid votes of the same number of shares. For 1,004,638,367 votes, against 37,456,071 votes, and abstained 759,321 votes. The resolution has been adopted. And now please display the draft resolution on acknowledgement to Karolina Mucha-Kuś. So this is the draft resolution. Are there any questions? If no, please cast your votes. Have all the shareholders had an opportunity to cast your votes? My understanding is that this is the case, so let me read out the results of the voting of the ballots. We have 1,042,853,759 valid votes out of the same number of shares. It is 59.50% of the share capital. For 1,004,638,367 votes, against 37,456,071, and abstained 759,321. The resolution has been adopted. Let's move on to the draft resolution on acknowledgement to Grzegorz Peczkis. The draft resolution is displayed. Are there any questions? If no, please cast your votes. Have all the shareholders had an opportunity to cast your votes? My understanding is that this is the case, so let me read out the results of the ballots. we have 1,042,853,759 valid votes out of the same number of shares. It is the same share capital volume, 59.50%, for 1,004,638,367 votes, against 37,456,071, and abstained 759,321 votes. Thank you. The resolution has been adopted. Let's display the draft resolution on acknowledgement to Teresa Famulska. This is the draft resolution. Are there any questions? If no, cast your votes, please. Have all the shareholders had an opportunity to cast your votes? My understanding is that this is the case, so let me read out the results of the ballots. We have 1,042,853,759 valid votes out of the same number of shares, so the same volume of share capital, 59.50%, for 1,004,641,008 votes, against 37,456,071, abstained 756,680 votes. The resolution has been adopted. And now let's move on to the draft resolution on acknowledgement to Piotr Tutak. This is the draft resolution. Are there any questions? If no, cast your votes now, please. Have all the shareholders had an opportunity to cast your votes? My understanding is that this is the case, so I'm reading out the results of the ballot. We have 1,042,853,759 valid votes out of the same number of shares. It is still the same share capital volume, 59.50%, for 1,004,638,367, against 37,456,071, and abstained 759,321 votes. The resolution has been adopted. And now let's display the next draft resolution on acknowledgement to Marcin Wawrzyniak. This is the draft resolution. Are there any questions? If no, cast your votes now, please. Have all the shareholders had an opportunity to cast your votes? If so, As there is no remark, let me read out the results of the ballot. The share capital volume is the same, 59.50%. It is 1,042,853,759 valid votes out of the same number of shares. For 1,004,638,367 against 37,456,071, abstained 759,321. The resolution has been adopted. And now let's display the draft resolution on acknowledgement to Dariusz Hryniow. This is the draft resolution. Are there any questions? Please cast your votes now. Have all the shareholders had a chance to cast your votes? My understanding is that this is the case, so let me read out the results of the ballot. The share capital volume is still the same, so we have 1,042,853,759 valid votes out of the same number of shares. For 1,004,638,367 votes against 37,456,071 and abstained 759,321. The resolution has been adopted. Thank you. And now let's move on to the last draft resolution in this item. It is on acknowledgement to Ryszard Madziar. The draft resolution is displayed. Are there any questions? If no, please cast your votes. Have all the shareholders had an opportunity to cast your votes? My understanding is that this is the case, so let me read out the results of the ballot. We have 1,042,853,759 valid votes out of the same number of shares. The share capital volume is the same, 59.50%. For 1,004,638,367 against 37,456,071 and abstained 759,321 votes. The resolution has been adopted. Thank you very much. So with this, we have completed votings on acknowledgement to the member of the boards and the members of the supervisory board. And let's move on to the item 17 on adoption of resolutions on amendments to the company's articles of association. Let me just remind you that we have here with the qualified number of votes, 3/4. We have the draft resolutions available on the website, and we also have this draft resolution displayed. Are there any questions on this draft resolution? I think it is not controversial, as it is on this obligation or duty resulting from the regulations or directives. Are there any questions? If no, this is the draft resolution, and now this is the open ballots, so please cast your votes. Have all the shareholders had an opportunity, a chance to cast your votes? I understand that this is the case, so let me read out the results of the ballots. We have 1,042,853,759 valid votes out of the same number of shares. The share capital volume is 59.50%. 4 is 953,990,395 votes, which is 91.47% of the votes cast, against 88,860,723 and abstained 2,641. It means that resolution on amendments to the company's articles of association has been adopted with a much bigger number of votes than required by the regulations and also the company's articles of association. So let's move on to the item 18. Adoption of resolution on the principles to be applied when establishing the remuneration of members of the management board. So this was required by the State Treasury, represented by the State Assets Ministry, and the draft resolution for this item has been submitted by the State Treasury, and it is published on the website of the corporation together with the justification and also with the current report number 20/2025. It was published on the 20th of June 2025. And are there any questions regarding this draft resolution? I cannot see any, so I understand that we can proceed to voting, to the ballot. So let's cast your votes. Cast your votes now, please. The ballot is in progress. Let's wait until all the votes are cast. Have all the shareholders had a chance to cast your votes? Can we close the ballots? No rejections, no remarks. So let me read out the results. We have 1,037,436,718 valid votes out of the same number of shares, and it is 59.19% of the share capital. So again, the share capital is a little bit different, and we have 905,147,783 votes against 120,742,443 votes and abstained 11,546,492 votes. It means that the resolution has been adopted on establishing of the remuneration. And now let's move on to the item 19, which is also some kind of derivative of the proposal we have just voted on under item 18. So it is a resolution on amendments to the remuneration policy for members of the management board and supervisory board TAURON Polska Energia SA, and of course the draft has been uploaded to the website, and it is also available. It is again on the request of the State Treasury, and it has also been published upon the request from the State Treasury and it is available on the website together with the justification. It was also published by the report 22/2025 on the 18th of June 2025. This draft resolution on the amendments to the remuneration policy for members of the Management Board and the Supervisory Board. Are there any questions in this regard? If no, please cast your votes. The voting is still in progress, isn't it? Yes, I think we can declare that the ballot is completed, so all the shareholders have had a chance to cast their votes. So let me read out the results. We have 1,037,436,718 valid votes out of the same number of shares, which is 59.19% of the share capital. For 905,147,783 votes, against 120,078,049, and abstained 12,210,886 votes. It means that the resolution has been adopted. Thank you very much. And now let's move on to the item 20 of the agenda. It is again included as a request of the State Treasury, represented by the Ministry of State Assets. This is the draft resolution that it was submitted to the website of the corporation together with the justification, and it was also publicized by the report number 22/2025 on the 18th of June 2025. We have this draft resolution displayed on the screen on determining the remuneration of the supervisory board members. Are there any questions? No questions. So now let's move on to the ballots. Have all the shareholders had a chance to cast your votes? No remarks. So I understand that all of you have cast your votes, those of you who wanted to do that. So let me read out the results. We have 1,037,436,718 valid votes out of the same number of shares, which is 59.19% of the share capital. For 905,117,783, against 120,078,049, and abstained 12,240,886 votes. It means that the resolution has been adopted. Thank you very much. And ladies and gentlemen, now let's move on to the item 21. We have completed the agenda we adopted for this general meeting. So thank you very much for your participation. And I'm closing this ordinary general meeting. Good luck and congratulations to your acknowledgements. Thank you very much and goodbye.